Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with another Talking Tactics special with our favourite football analyst, Gareth. Gareth, we couldn't quite keep our lucky streak going. 1-0 defeat at Old Trafford to Manchester United. Little bit disappointing in the end, mate.
Yeah, it was. It was kind of a neither here nor there performance, was it? Really, it was.
Mm.
We didn't sort of look to go at them, but yet we didn't sort of look to defend. It was kind of in between, really. But yeah, a little bit disappointing for me. I'm still trying to mull it over even now, really.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Was it a slightly missed opportunity? Was it a kind of valiant defeat? I can't quite put and does it link to more, does it lead on to more kind of signs for what we can expect for the future? Have Villa slightly run out of steam, or are they going to use it as a kick up the backside to
Yeah,
kick themselves on for the rest of the season?
yeah, it definitely left us with more questions than answers, didn't it? Really, I think
Yeah.
I just wonder whether I think they were tired a little bit. There was just, for me, there was a bit of tiredness in the legs there that you could see even from sort of from the off. But yeah, I just don't think, could we have done more? We'll get into that,
Mm.
obviously.
Yeah, exactly, mate. You've said it there. We're going to get into it. We're going to got our usual slides. We've got your analysis in terms of what Man United did effectively to shut us off, and also what we didn't do enough of to get beyond United. And then also we're going to discuss Mateu Alemany, who you have had some slight connection with in the past, which so we'll get your views on what you think of him, because it's all the talk of Twitter, and apparently now Villa are going to revolutionise the Premier League and sweep all before them. But you're going to be just there to maybe dampen that down just a little bit.
Well, let's see.
Yeah, but before we go, I just want to say, please, thank you for everyone for your support. We're literally 10 or 11 subscribers away from 1,400. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Give us a like as well. Helps us spread the word of the channel. We get so many people who say, they've only just stumbled across our channel, and that's because the likes help us with the algorithm for YouTube. So they really do make a massive difference. And drop your comments below to see what you think of what we're talking about, and any questions that you've got for Gareth. So, mate, let's get into it. Passing
Yep.
networks first. What are your thoughts here? Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Couldn't get out.
no, we just couldn't get going at all from the minute one, from our first phase of the build-up. We weren't sure whether we were going to go short with Martinez to out to Mings and out to the left-hand side, which we like to normally do, or even through concert every now and then it sort of move that ball across that left-hand side. But then we couldn't decide whether we were going to go long a lot of the time, what was going on, and whether that was, I think a lot of that was on-field decision-making by Martinez, which again, we'll have a look at later. But it was kind of neither here nor there, was it?
No. I mean, that usual triangle just didn't look like it was there at all. And
No.
I did notice a lot of, Rashford has got a lot of speed. He does cover the ground quickly, and that did put a lot of pressure on the players in terms of those passing sequences.
Yeah, it did, but there was options to play wide and play
Yeah.
out through those wide. They played in as we'll see later, they got on a 4-1-4-1, and we can see that passing network where you've got our sort of Dendoncker and Louise. Look how far apart they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not a double pivot in any shape or form, even when you're in possession. It's so far apart. And we're looking at McGinn and Ramsey. We were in a 4-2-3-1 and we struggled. We didn't adapt to the Manchester United shape. I think for this game, we would have better off being in that 4-4-2 and not in the 4-2-3-1. We'll see later why that is.
Yeah. Yeah. And then just a quick look at the influence. I think Moreno there stands out, couldn't get him into the game. He's usually one of the biggest in terms of font size. And Watkins, I mean, you can't even hardly see him on the screen.
But this is why we do these player. I think these are quite handy, these player influences. When we don't play well and when we do struggle, we can see where sort of we're not involved in, the players that are not involved in passing sequences are. And for instance, for example, there, I think, Wendy, although not involved as much as what he was more involved than others. And I think some of the flack he got afterwards was a little bit unwarranted, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, certainly looking at that, there's one or two other players that, it's almost a real kind of crude way of showing players that are hiding, for want of a better word.
Almost. You said it, not me.
Yeah. Something that I used to label that kind of Horahan quite a lot.
Yeah.
He used to pop up with a goal every now and again, but I never thought he made himself available for the ball enough.
No, I mean, it was more for me out of possession. It wasn't too bad. It was just in possession that I saw.
Yeah,
Just come on, we're getting going, we're getting going. No, we're not. We're stopping.
yeah.
And just giving the ball away too much. And those players like Buendia, like Douglas Luiz, who you want to keep hold of the ball a little bit more, they just didn't even do it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And Louise has been great, but it was when he was masterful against Fulham. It's like it's these games, the Man United's, where you want that standard of player to come out. Man United away is where that's the stage for you to show you
Yeah,
how good you are.
yeah, I agree. Especially like you said, it's Man United away from home, but also away from home in general. You
Yeah.
need those players to get on that ball and be comfortable and just retain that bit. We are a possession-based side, so the idea is that we retain possession.
Yeah. Quick flying through the XG. I don't think there'll be too much here to discuss. Not a great deal for either side, but I mean, look at that. What's that? 0.06 is that on target
Yeah,
XG?
that's the exactly on the value of the shot on target actually that's on target. So yeah, I mean, even just nothing, but a little bit of a concern about that right hand side that they might have targeted Ashley Young in those spaces there. You can see on the sort of the left hand side of
Yeah.
their penalty area, as it were. So yeah, a little bit of a concern for me there because I thought they were going to sort of end up bending ones in that far corner, which they did attempt on a few occasions.
And then the timeline. Yeah, we couldn't really. I think that just echoes your thoughts. We couldn't really get going, but also like a game where both teams really gave the ball away quite a lot. And that's where I feel like it was a kind of a missed opportunity because I didn't think Man United were that great.
Well, they weren't, and this graphic shows it perfectly. 14 shots from them. I think it was about 7 or 8 from us, 7 from us, and they only created chances worth 1.25 xg. And so we, like I said, we did defend reasonably well. It was just that one moment of sort of chaos, if you like, that cost us the game almost because United just didn't do enough either.
Yeah, and then obviously, the threat, both teams across the timeline. Man United obviously showing a greater threat, but again, not really huge amount in terms of the game flow.
No, just like I say, the threat was early on in the first 20 minutes, which you generally any team faces at Old Trafford within the first 20 minutes, and then it sort of pans itself out a little bit. Yeah, but not much to report back really.
No, and this is what leads to the more questions because it's like, why couldn't they just go for it? I think Brentford was arguably a tougher game in terms of like chances against us and threat against us than the Man United one.
Yeah, and there was similar sort of outcomes, wasn't it? Really, sort of, in possession and out of possession. It was quite a similar performance from us almost, but yet at Brentford we managed to get something out of the game, albeit late on.
Yeah. We'll go through your analysis because, as I say, you've alluded to quite a bit that you want to cover in terms of that. While I'm just getting the screen up, please, guys, hit that like button. Don't forget and hit that subscribe button if you are new to the channel. And let us know your thoughts in the comments as well. So you wanted to cover the United's defensive shape first and how that stopped us from getting out.
Yeah, we saw Newcastle try and do this against us at Villa Park, in the 4-1-4-1 sort of 3 or 4-3-3, if you like. But yeah, you've got sort of Sabitzer and Ericsson, the two central midfielders. Sabitzer dropped into that midfield today, not as in he normally plays up with Rashford a lot of the time recently, but played in sort of alongside Ericsson, and you can see Casemiro in the DM position, and it was his job to pick up Emi Buendia, and also, like I've written in the text there, that Luke Shaw sort of stepped out to pick up Buendia when sort of, when needed, when Casemiro had to drop onto Ramsey. And they can see what Newcastle tried to do, except they're the right side, man. They're blocking passing lanes. So Mings has got no passing to Dendon or Louise. He's trying to find Wendy, but he can't. Again, this for me is where we needed to play out wider a little bit more.
Yeah. And then I think there's just adding on to that meant that we had some real build-up struggles, trying to get out, and you've highlighted it, perfectly here.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of times I've been in sort of analysis sessions with managers or coaches or whatever, and it's always, guys, we need to find solutions when we're faced with problems. And this is what the top teams do, but we seem to sort of a little bit struggle with that when we're faced with sort of not what is not being expected in pre-match meetings, maybe, is we're faced with something a little bit different. And we struggle to solve on-field problems almost a little bit. But this is, again, what I mean. You can see now our passing network. Do you remember we spoke about Louise and Dendoncker being quite far apart? I think they
Yeah,
summed it up just nicely.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
we've got the two central with that. That's Ericsson chasing back there. But I mean, you've got Sabitzer, and that's the distance. And they try to create that. I think they try to sort of stretch us a little bit more to make Wendy and Ramsey stay in those wider positions rather than come in field.
Yeah. Well, they were very solid and workmanlike and efficient, if not, expansive, and that really did show. And that, I guess that's the next step of where kind of Villa need to get is, teams are going to try and stop us, but we've got to think of like you said, think of the solutions to get out of the problems. And yeah, again, looking at our defensive shape here, that where they kind of hurt us a little bit as well, or made us kind of think twice.
Yeah, when they were in possession, you can see Sabitzer and Ericsson then push high onto our defensive line. This causes massive, massive problems because Louise and Dendoncker are not quite sure. They're free men. They don't know what to do because they can't drop into that defensive line because it's just no need for it. But yet, what do? They're free men. So they should really have tried to block those lanes split like Ericsson and Sabitzer did to us. Out of position, split, and just stand in front of them. Just stand in front of them. Tyrone can talk to them about that. Stand 5 or 10 yards in front of them. Just move across that defensive line, but not drop into it. And it was kind of difficult because Ramsey, for me, again, he wasn't sure. What does he do? He doesn't need to drop into the left back position because Moreno's got it, but yet he can see Sabitzer there. But yet he's got Dalot to come forward. What does he do? And I think there was a little bit of maybe on-field communication could have been maybe a little bit sort of lacking in this game.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of things that he could have done there, but he's doing neither or. Like he could, if they block the passing lanes, he can get in the centre where he can hurt them and run right through the middle.
Exactly,
Like,
and I
there's
think
loads of things he could do.
Yeah, and I think this is where the flatter 4-4-2 would have been better both in and out of position. It would have made the transitions a lot easier because Villa would have known they're rigid in a 4-4-2, whatever. When they're coming from a 4-2-3-1 back to that 4-4-2 defensive shape, I think they struggled with it. But I think it was Sabitzer and Ericsson that caused the problems.
And then here, looking at where we struggled with those passing options again. You wanted to you mentioned Wendy getting a bit of stick on Twitter in particular, but maybe that was a little bit unfair.
I think it was. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think he deserves some criticism. I don't think he was as good in this game, but name me one Villa player who probably was a lot better than him in the game, and I don't think we can. And I think the times that he was making himself available off the ball, making sort of into central areas like this and picking up on the ball, but it just wasn't sort of good enough on that. We didn't make enough runs off of the ball for him. I think they struggled to find Watkins, and I think it was just sort of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But to single him out just for criticism, I think was a little unfair.
Yeah, I agree. I think what I mentioned it on our pod, like with Wendy, he likes to receive the ball and then give it, 1 and 2 touch passing, and but to do that he needs the options and he needs the gaps to look at, and I just don't think he quite had enough of that, and that comes to what you were saying about the movement off the ball. Like he needs that movement off the ball to be able to create those passes that maybe other players can't see.
Yeah, and it's exactly that. I think, and this is what I know. People are going to start thinking I'm picking on JJ, but I'm not. But I just think he really needs to sort of try and get involved, especially off the ball, make those runs. Like he can't just pick up the ball and carry it, which is what he's best at. He needs to be able to be one of those attacking midfielders, a real attacking midfielder, and make runs off the ball, make it dart into spaces past Watkins, and just be a little bit braver.
Yeah. Because he's got the 2 midfielders in there to cover him, so he's got license to do it. And McGinn will always drop in as well if needs be. So yeah, and then you mentioned that as well at the start about Villa not quite knowing when to press or doing neither or, and that's one of my real big annoyances. This is why I like Mings a lot of the time, because he's 100% man, and if he makes a mistake, he's made a mistake, but at least he's gone for it. You've put here press or not to press, and you basically summed it up like we did neither. We didn't press, and we didn't drop off. We kind of were halfway in between.
Yeah, there's not much more I can add. I think we were in a mid block. We try, we just didn't. I don't know. It's confusing because I think the headline you said says it all. We didn't know what to press or not to press. I mean, we've got to get up. We've got to get up a few yards there. I know they're probably worried about Rashford in behind, but if you're going to play the offside trap, that's a chance you're going to take. But you've got to push that team up. That team's got to come up, and they've obviously been told not to press. They've obviously been told to let Manchester United have that ball there. When it comes into midfield, that's when we'll do something about it. But you can't be either or.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. And then finally, we're looking at again, maybe when we did have an opportunity to attack on the break, which we've done really well over the past, and which we did really well against Man United in the home game, we didn't really take advantage of it.
This is our strength, especially away from home. This is our strength. Play Watkins in behind. Too many players static here for me. Again, JJ, bottom right of the screen, he's got to be progressing up there. He's got to be able to see that as soon as that ball comes into Ashley Young there, if he can outpace Dallo, and he can outpace, I can't see that it's Casemiro, he can outpace him. He'll be first in the box.
I think that's Louise at the bottom there.
Is it? Sorry, Douglas Luiz. Sorry. So he's there. Maybe not. Then maybe he wouldn't be able to outpace him.
But you've got Wendy walking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Louise could do it, because if Ramsey's dropped off, then Ramsey could cover in for him. You've got loads of
and especially the boys at the back can see what's going on there. They've got everything in front of them. Somebody's got to give him a shout. We're just on half time. Have a crack. Go for it. You're right on half time. What's the worst that could happen?
Exactly. Yeah, really helpful analysis there, mate. Really, really, really good. And I think it just highlights where we didn't really take enough of a chance. And I think Emery kind of said that himself in the post-match interview, that he felt we could have given a bit more.
There you go. It's what it is. It's like exactly when we opened with the same sentences. Is that they had that little bit more. We've seen it against better teams. So why did they not sort of try to do it? I don't know. I can only put it down to legs. That's my feeling.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. A week off, a couple of players hopefully back in contention for Saturday. Bit of freshness in the squad will give us a shot against Wolves. I wanted to cover, because obviously Twitter's been mad with a new sporting director, and we did touch on this on a couple of the live shows that we've done, other talking tactics, where you kind of intimated that Emery might want to bring his own man in as a sporting director. What that means for some of the staff that are there currently, we don't know, but movements have been made with current Barcelona sporting director, or maybe who's recently left, Mateu Alemany, and quite a bit about him. So enlighten us, mate, because everyone's saying that we're going to win the league now, and we need to know all about this sporting director.
Yeah, through sort of a friend of mine, sort of who I met through LinkedIn, who was one of the analysts at Valencia in 2018. I did a little bit of opposition work for one of their Copa del Rey games. And it was quite interesting. He just sort of wanted to see a different aspect, and everything else. And I know that this guy, Alemany, was there at the time. Now, I had no dealings with him whatsoever, but I started to sort of, as you do, start to look into Valencia a lot more, because it's an interest you're going to be doing. You need to know a lot about him. So, yeah, he was there, I think, of 2017 to 2019, I think about it was. But I'm interested to the fact that he was at Mallorca, and he's got some very good relationships at Mallorca. And I think it was 2000 to 2005 he was there. Now, we know that Lee Kang-ging, obviously, he's playing for Mallorca at that time now. So apparently he's got a lot of good connections there. He was at Valencia as well, like I say, and obviously you got the Barcelona link as well. But they've got their own. It's a bit difficult, because we went for Corden in the January from Betis. Now, he's obviously left. They're looking to get a guy in from Getafe. So whether Corden is still in the frame and something is going on, or whether this Alemany is going to be coming. Now, from what I understand it, Johan Lang won't lose his job. It's a completely different role. So obviously Johan Lang is the sporting director. This guy's going to be a director of football. But I wonder what had happened to Corden, because I thought that was pretty much a shoo-in after he'd left Betis at that time, and there was talks going on and everything, but it never sort of materialised. So I wonder what's going on, whether there's a I think there was a package involved, but it's not a shoe-in, I don't think. I think it's like you said, it's the media thing, but it'd be interesting. He's got some good connections. He managed well at Barcelona there, during troubled times, and he's not to blame for any transfers or the financial collapse, no matter what people might say. So it will be interesting to see how he comes in. He's going to finish at Barcelona, so he's going to see the summer transfer out. So I don't think he will be here in the immediate future anyway, but I guess we shall see.
Yeah, interesting. And looks like we might be going down a La Liga route regardless. And yeah, Lee Kang-in makes sense if he's got good connections with Mallorca. Barcelona connections as well, with one or two of their players needing to go out. I'm sure that their players will be highly coveted though after, they've pretty much won the league over there and everything. So yeah, we might not be shopping in those circles yet, but yeah, interesting times. And I think, we know how obsessive Unai Emery is over the coaching. I think someone coming in that role to support him will really, really help. I mean, what's your general view of the director of football, within the club?
Yeah, a lot of people get sort of things confused with sporting director, technical directors, and, sort of, as you say, a director of football. And the director of football sees across football operations, usually across the first team. So basically just transfers. It is pretty much, that's what it comes down to. And I think it's interesting that Villa like to sign a lot of players from Spain. We've done it in the past. And I think that's a really key point here, is that we're going to be looking to recruit a lot from there. And I think Alemany is obviously a good connection to there. It's very different from a sporting director, which Johan Lange sort of oversees the whole of the football operations across that, sort of looks after everybody across that. So to have a director of football in, just to concentrate on transfers and linking with the manager and the chief executive, Johan Lange especially, it's key to have that, I think.
Brilliant. Well, look, it'll be really interesting to see. We're seeing lots of rumours about him getting a huge salary and unlimited transfer budget, but I think quite a lot of that is, like you say, is a little bit of hype. And look, if he comes in with a real great strategy, we've seen these kind of full storms before, but I think hopefully, the club seems to be going in the right direction. If we can keep those results coming on the pitch, it'll obviously really help it. And no better than to get back to winning ways than against Wolves on Saturday.
Yeah, I think, we're going to be looking forward to that one. I think we're looking at 3 points and Wolves got a tank in, but it's the Premier League. We just don't know. It means nothing, does it? But,
no.
I think I got a bit of slack for saying about European football being maybe a season too early for Villa, given could we sort of sign sort of all these players in the summer and then give a real crack at it next year? But European football comes knocking. I guess you don't sort of turn it down. But to get European football sort of helps with the caliber of play you're getting in. Not a massive extent if you get in the Conference League, I don't think, compared to what you'd be if you jump from there to the Champions League. So it's not a massive jump, and the recruitment sort of is what it is. But yeah, let's hope we can get a job done on Saturday to push us even higher.
Exactly, 100%, mate. Well, we will be back, I'm sure, with a talking tactics. Hopefully, we can get back to winning ways on this show and talk about a positive Villa performance and goals. We need goals again. Let's get some goals back in our game. Get Watkins back on the score sheet. Gareth, once again, just remind everyone where they can find you and your wonderful analysis.
Yeah, at that Grate JC. So give me a shout anytime.
Brilliant. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, help us really grow the channel. I'm sure we can get to 40 after this episode. If you want to become a member, hit that button. And as always, thank you for your support. Get your comments in, and remember, we'll follow the Villa. Thanks, everyone.